In today's episode of the Pathway Presents podcast, I got a very interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Benyon, and he's hailing over from the folks over at Watching That. And Watching That, basically, they're an independent monitoring and optimization platform for video, right? So basically empowers publishers to use data to improve their revenue streams. So I want to really deep dive into that because it seems to be a very interesting topic. That a lot of folks can definitely benefit from. They touch on topics like monitoring, optimization, support, and reporting. And today we want to really figure out what Watching That is actually all about in detail. So Luke, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, yeah. So maybe give us a quick introduction in your own words. What is Watching That all about?
Yeah, so essentially what Watching That does, it allows businesses in the streaming industry specifically, but wider sort of video publishers, to really understand the data that they have at their disposal and be able to behave and act on it with much more insight than they would do if they were just taking that raw data. So, for example, if you could spot immediately if your advertising wasn't rendering properly or if your content had stopped delivering and where, so you can dive down and see if a particular device or operating system is underperforming, or crucially as well, if your revenue is dropping off.
Mm-hmm. Very, very good. So who would be the people you would say that are, currently leveraging the platform the most? Like who's getting the most benefit, you would say?
Yeah, so at the moment we're super focused on CTV platforms, connected television platforms. So people you might know like Crackle, Discovery, Channel 4, they're really focused obviously on delivering a great advertising experience, and that's what drives their revenue. So the people behind the scenes who are then operating their ads, they really benefit from having insights like our platform can provide, because it enables them to really oversee what's happening deep into the data and optimize it and avoid any potential loss of revenue.
Mm-hmm. Makes a whole lot of sense. Now, what would you say, what is sort of the main key benefits, when they learn about you guys, when they're getting started, what sort of the key questions that they, the key things that they really want to, get fixed?
Well, I think with these platforms, everyone's got their own nuances. Everyone has their own setup, their own technology stacks, their own partners, and the advertising ecosystem is pretty complex. So everyone will want to know, like, that sounds great. Obviously, we want something that does that, but does it work for our specific instance? So it's our job to make sure that people know how flexible our platform is and how optimized it is specifically for connected television use cases and the different types of SSPs or ad servers and DSPs that they might be connected to as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So now, when they are learning about you guys, right? What would you say? What is the journey looking like that they're taking? How do they hear even about you guys? Like, what's maybe the channels that you guys leverage? What's the journey of somebody getting to know Watching That?
So it's a fairly small industry. We're talking about the media industry, specifically the connected television sector of that, and then specifically publishers within that. So in a sector like that, I think people talk and people recommend things they've done. People switch employers as well. So there's that level of knowledge and understanding of what the best tools are. But simply having a good product and reputation isn't like a marketing strategy in itself. So we need to make sure that we're present at the places that these people will be having their own discussions as well. So obviously that means things like industry events and trade press, industry press as well. So, because we're a data platform, we have a lot of insights and we can draw a lot of aggregation across all of our customers to understand things that are happening better than anyone else. So we're able to sort of bring a lot of value to the table when it comes to things like industry events or press or opinion, even dialogue and discourse on social media apps as well. So I think really it's about us being interesting, having unique insight, and bringing that to people at the places where they are.
Gotcha. Makes a whole lot of sense. Now, how do you think about the website in that process? What role does the website play in your perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's currently for us an area we're looking to expand upon. The website's really critical for existing customers and customers who are onboarding because there's a lot of knowledge in our knowledge base and a lot of deep insights in there that really help people when they're onboarding or learning how to use the platform. And that's an important process for us because it can be quite complex and quite bespoke. Um, of course, as well, it's got to be a front page for marketing and for outreach and for the people encounter when they first come to you. So we have a couple of pages that are really well performing for SEO, for example, that we've created just with our all that knowledge that I talked about before, trying to get that turned into content that can live online. And then getting people from there to sign up to a communications flow, and in particular for us, that's a newsletter. And then once they're on the newsletter, we're able to have a really good conversation with them. So the website is the main stepping off point between social platforms and the newsletter and getting people on that flow.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Now, every marketer I have on the show here, right, is super, let's say, cautious about their own website, right? There's always something to improve, always something that they could change and update, right?
Yeah.
Now, what I'm wondering is, how do you think about the page in that sense? Like, what's maybe, something where you see a strength of the website versus, some room for improvement?
I think the strength is our ability to we publish a lot, we publish quickly, and it's very detailed and comes from the passion of our customer service team and our founder, who's really in the weeds with the product. So we're able to get a lot of deep knowledge onto that site. But at the moment, it's not really optimized for conversion. Our that newsletter that I talked about, that's buried at the bottom of the page and asks for maybe too much information, or there's just a little bit of a convoluted journey to get people to sign up there, and we're not probably bringing the benefits of that to the forefront. So for me, and this is definitely a project for 2023, it's all about how can we make those great visits we get to the site and turn those into people who want to be part of a more
Mm-hmm.
ongoing and communication flow.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Now, we talked a lot about what you guys are doing, who you're serving, the types of people you're working with. Right? I would love to jump a little bit into your journey as a marketer. So, how do you keep on educating yourself? Like, what are your places, your go-to resources with all the noise out there, right, on growth? So, what is it that you're doing?
Yeah, I try and stay focused in the areas that I think my strengths are. So I particularly focus on B2B marketing, and I particularly focus on creativity and storytelling within that. So I try and read and absorb as much information around that as possible through the obvious places like reading books, newsletters, certain blogs and websites. Um, and then, of course, there's places like the LinkedIn B2B Institute who are producing amazing stuff. And I'm an avid Twitter user. And I also really value WhatsApp groups that I'm part of that are maybe in industry groups where people can really talk in a bit more of a private forum about stuff. But also, nothing can beat meeting up with colleagues and ex-colleagues and having a good old discussion about what works for them in real life, if you ever get a chance to do that these days.
Mhm. Very cool. So, a couple of rapid fire questions to wrap it up for today. Are you ready for those?
Okay.
What is the last book that you read?
I just finished Great Expectations by Charles Dickens.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a long time.
Why is that? Because it's written complicated, or
Because I read at night and I tend to fall asleep after 2 pages. So.
that makes it then a long read. What is the last thing, or what's the one single thing actually your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Well, we use OKRs for our goal setting, and I have quite a simple OKR of doubling our lead pipeline for 2023. So I'm super focused on that, and as a company, we're really focused on that.
Mm-hmm. What would you do? Let's say you got a magic wand, right? You can change one thing for marketers. What's the one thing you would change for your role as a marketer?
I would make it so that it was easier for us to get reporting on in the industry press and get speaking opportunities at events without paying to play, because I think at the moment There's far too much pay to play, and it means that the press and the events are not a level playing field. They're not based on merit, they're based on budgets. And I think we need a reevaluation of how we communicate and a much more open industry press. Particularly, I'm talking particularly in my sector, advertising and ad tech, but it's probably true across a lot of other sectors as well.
Got you. No, that makes a whole lot of sense. Very last question. If today would be your first day heading out of Goldsmiths University of London, right? It's been a while.
That's right. Yeah.
You're heading out now into the world of, I mean, you've been doing a lot of different things in the sense of like content work, creative work, head of marketing, of course, and even in the education space, if I'm not mistaken. So what would be the one advice for your journey that you would give yourself?
I think it's just keep learning. Sometimes you'll find yourself in maybe a position that you didn't want to be in terms of a job position, or maybe it's a company that you didn't particularly ever dream of being in that sector. But there's always something you can learn, even if it's picking up what people are doing wrong all around you, or if you identify someone who you think is brilliant at their job, take notes on what they do. And you can never stop learning in work. So always, whatever situation you're in, no matter how miserable you are in a position or how happy you are in a position, there's always more you can do to learn. And so just keep learning.
Very, very cool. Look, I really appreciate you took the time for us to be a guest on Pathmark Presents. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about watching that, what's the one thing people should remember?
I think just remember next time you're watching TV that when you see an ad break, there's a whole load of people working hard to make sure that ad break happens and works, and that all the ads are delivered, and that it's driven by very passionate, knowledgeable, data-led people who are all working behind the scenes to make that happen for you. So watch out for watching that.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathmark Presents.
Thank you.